like people as people do online, to not worry about it a whole lot and don't worry about studying a whole lot is a mistake. I was probably upset that I didn't pass. That was a big mistake too. The first time with me is I would sit down and sort of look what I needed to get and find information. And then once an hour had passed or 30 minutes had passed, then I would study, which
Bonjour guys, welcome back to my channel. So Paul is joining me today and he took FE other disciplines and he passed it on his second attempt. Now Paul graduated with an electrical mechanical engineering technology degree in 2013 and he decided to take his FE because he knew he wanted to get his PE license. Now I'm really excited to have you guys hear his story. Paul, thank you so much for being here with me today.
absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, so before we dive into like studying and how many hours you spent, resources, all of that, I want to ask you first, since you took the FE exam twice, I want to know, what do you think you struggled the most with to pass your FE exam?
It was definitely time management. When I took the exam in 2020, I was pretty busy with work, and the work that I was doing wasn't as predictable as I would like. I was working for a water municipality as more of a maintenance engineer and sort of a bit of a manager of electricians. So things would go wrong randomly at like 6 or 7 in the evening, and I might have to stop pausing or stop studying for an hour and then get back into it, which slowed me down a fair bit. Yeah, I mean that and just making sure that I'm getting the most quality study time out of my actual studying was probably one of the biggest things, because there would be times where I would sit there and do problems that I knew I could do right. I'd do those to get my confidence up, and then I'd start some other problems that were a little bit more difficult. But then you sort of, when you don't get them initially, it's sort of like, this sucks. I want to just stop now because I've forgotten something, or it just seems to me like I don't understand something. So sometimes it's hard to know where to start when you go over something. You're like, I don't remember how to do this. I remember seeing it, but I don't remember how to do this. So you have to just take time to go back and research how it's done. And I think some of the plans that you have in your courses and recommendations in your courses is to plan the next day ahead of time and know what you're getting into. Once I started doing that, I don't think I did that enough for the first exam, but then the second time I definitely did that. I knew pretty much in detail the second time, like weeks ahead, like even days, what I was doing. That way, if there was a topic that, I just couldn't get right, then I would just add it to the next day and then go over that a little bit more the next day. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So the first thing you said that you didn't have like a constant, like you had constant distraction. So it was hard to find kind of like for you to focus. And I'm really glad you brought that a point, because like when you're studying and then something pulls you out of it, when you come back, it takes you like about 20 to 30 minutes to dive in again, right?
Or an hour.
Or an hour, right? And I think, and that's why I always tell you guys, like, make sure that when you're studying, your phone is not near you and you're not on social media. Well, for you, your situation was slightly different because it was work and an emergency and you had to do it. But
Right.
If you don't have to do it, make sure that like your phone is really away and you tell people like, hey, I'm gonna start studying, so that you don't get distracted, because it really helps you like process the information much better and your studying is just more efficient. Another thing I want to ask you is that you said that a lot of people would do the problems that they already know, they're already comfortable with it, just because, like you said, makes you happy, like you feel confident. Right. And so when you started having those uncomfortable feelings, when you faced harder problems or problems you didn't know, how did you overcome it? How did you push through and make sure that you didn't give up? Hey guys, I'm going live this week where I'm going to help you set up a schedule for the FE exam so that you show up, you stay consistent till you pass your FE exam. Also, I went live last week where I talked about exactly how to pass your FE exam. And if you missed it, go ahead and sign up at this link here and we will send you the recording.
So I guess like I said, it was better the second time around, like my second attempt for the exam in July of this year. I approached that better, where I just tried to look at it as, you're just learning something. There's no problem with that. If you got to learn it again, so what? You got to learn it. You might as well try and be excited about it. I guess it was was an attitude change, really. I was being a negative Nancy in the beginning because I'm just like, I should know all this stuff. And, just whenever you're working and stuff, you just hate to waste time to do that. But once you just take a step back and just be like, it's just a learning opportunity. It's, so what if you have to learn it again? Just forget about the time. I mean, that's another thing is you have this timetable, but you sort of have to forget about it at the same time because you don't want to focus on how much time you have while you're studying. You just want to be in it and studying. So that I even in the second go around of the exam, like I would be like, I got 3 weeks away. This is what I got to do. And you just have to kind of fight those thoughts and just sort of know the time's there, but also like you just can't think about that time that you have left before the exam while you're studying because it'll just ruin the quality of studying for you. It did for me anyway.
Wow, I love that. So first was like the part where you said it's just like recognizing, okay, I don't know this stuff. And then your second step was like, you know what, I'm just going to accept how it is. And then the third step was like, let me learn this. So it was like this shift of mindset, which I really love because that's really important thing to do. You're not going to go in knowing all of this stuff. You have to go in with an open mind and accept that you need to relearn a lot of this stuff because you've been out of school for a while, or even if you're a recent graduate, a lot of times we forget material, especially if we don't use it, right? If you don't use it, you lose it.
I mean, that's the case even in engineering too, right? Like even in my job, I have situations like that where I have to learn something. You're not going to just get upset that you have to learn something when you're in the engineering field. You have to do it that way then anyway.
Right.
I guess it's more of a kick in the butt whenever you just know that you've done the material before and you have to learn it again, I think is why I got negative in the beginning, probably.
Yeah. You kind of got like frustrated, like why can't I remember this stuff?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Let's jump into like the scheduling and time management. So a lot of students, when they start studying for this exam, they start asking like, how many months am I going to be spending studying for this test? We always get this email. How long should I study for this exam, right? So can you tell us a little bit about when you started studying, did you have like a time frame, or did you schedule your exam already? Or you just started studying and you were just like, I'm just going to go and see how it goes, and then you scheduled it?
So I think the first time I took a practice exam, and this is a problem too, is I was always close. Like when I took the practice exam the first time, I'm like, I would look up scores online, which is stupid because I think they're always probably a little bit higher than what you're thinking. And just reading reviews from other people about who passed it and who didn't pass with a certain score, I think it's just a waste of time. I mean, you have a general like score you should get, but also at the same time, it's just like, just make sure you know everything because I mean, giving yourself room to fail on something, I don't know. I just don't. I mean, you can get lucky, sure, but so I took the practice exam. I got whatever the minimum was. I'm like, well, I'll just do whatever I'm seeing online. It was like 2 or 3 months or whatever. I'm like, well, since I did that well, I'll just do 2 or 3 months, schedule the exam, and then just kind of tackle subject for subject on a weekly basis. I think I tried to do 1 subject a week, maybe 2. Again, it was not nearly as organized. I didn't go open that FE outline and go topic by topic by topic. I just briefly looked over them and then opened a book and read stuff. The first time I used PPI to Pass book, which, I mean, I didn't pass with it, so I don't know if it was good or bad. I think in some instances it was good for some information. But I would go read the material on that and then do the practice problems. Once, I took it, I got the similar score. I think the results I had, it was just basically what I got on the practice exam, but it wasn't good enough. It wasn't enough to pass. So that's why if I were to give advice, I would just say, if you take the practice exam, I mean, it's good to gauge it, but also at the same time, don't totally rely on that. And you should probably try and do a little bit better than just passing. But again, don't get discouraged at the same time if you don't, do that well. It's kind of like a weird judgment call there. But yeah, I would say it was probably 2-3 months that I took time after work during the week. And then I would do as much as I could during the weekends. Even during the weekends, I was technically on call. It was better on the weekends for sure.
And so now on your last attempt, how many months did you study for it?
Maybe a little bit, maybe like 4 months, something like that.
Okay.
So I went through your course, and once I was done, I was a lot closer. And there were some other topics that like thermo, because I took the other disciplines exam, right? So I had to do
Right.
thermo. There was some chemistry that I found other information for, and electrical engineering sources I had other information for. But then once I finished your course in about 4 months or so, then I went back and re-looked at all of that stuff again through your course. I took some time off in between taking the exam the first time, which again is probably not the best idea. You should probably just get right back into it. But I probably, from November on to, I guess, January, February, started again.
Let me ask you this. Why did you take that much break between the first and the second one?
Why did I do that? I think all the wrong reasons. I was probably upset that I didn't pass, and was just like, do I just take this again in January, or, what do I do? But then I found your videos and just said, well, if I'm this close and I'm sort of half-assing, but if I go all the way with these videos and do each topic in detail, I'm sure to pass. Yeah, that 2 months was silly. I don't think I had good reasons to do it.
I think you really needed to take those 2 months or 3 months break, because a lot of times when we fail, we're just not ready to get back right into it. And we just need time to regroup, come up with a better plan that's going to actually help us pass this test. So for the second attempt, how many hours did you study a day? And then also how many hours did you study during the weekend?
2 to 3 during the week, and probably, a good 4 to 6 on Saturday, 4 to 6 on Sunday. But again, I think even though quantity was similar, quality was better the second attempt, because like I said, I knew specific topics that I was getting into during the day. I wasn't spending time focusing on what to study each day because I knew it the day before. And it's a much better way to go about it that way. So as soon as you sit down, you're getting right into this particular topic and looking up whatever material specifically to that topic. That was a big mistake too the first time with me, is I would sit down and sort of look what I needed to get and find information. And then once an hour had passed or 30 minutes had passed, then I would study, which doesn't seem like a lot, but 30 minutes of quality studying can change. It can really help you understanding topics anyway.
I think spending the first 30 minutes looking for resources before you start studying can be energy draining. Just,
for sure.
Your second attempt, you were way more efficient with your time. Even though your time was the same, you spent the same amount of time. But on the first attempt, it wasn't as efficient as the second attempt. And that's actually really important because, a lot of you guys work full time. And when you're studying 2 or 3 hours, you got to make sure that you are studying the right way, the right material, because you don't have time to waste. We talked a little bit about resources, and you mentioned that on the second attempt, you enrolled in our course, but like you mentioned also that you took FE other disciplines. So the only course that would help you would be the morning, FE Accelerator morning. Can you tell us a little bit about what material did you use for the topics that we don't cover in our course?
For those topics, I used this Barron's book.
Okay.
And then I also use, I think Khan Academy had really good electrical topics, also chemistry and thermo. And then Coursera had really good mathematics and probability and statistics. So I know you had a lot of that stuff, if not all of it, but if I wanted some extra practice. So, and then also on a side note, just from the regular FE exam, I did do that one, but then I also did this practice exam by Anthem Books. So that was another resource I used.
You purchased our course, and so you decided at that moment to invest money. Spending money, sometimes it's not that easy, especially if it's more than $200 or whatever. I want to know what really made you decide to purchase our course. what was the factor where you're like, I want to get this course?
Well, I guess so. I did spend money on the PPI to pass course, and that did not work.
So,
but I think when I saw your videos on YouTube, and just saw some of the videos of people who went through and followed detail with your plan, I just sort of, I guess it was sort of inspirational in a way. It was just like, I know I can do this, but maybe it just needs a little bit more structure to pass it.
I didn't know you took a PPI course. I thought you took you got the book, the Linder book. I didn't know you actually got the course. So for the first attempt, you actually got the course?
Yeah, but
okay.
that was probably a waste of money because I don't think I used it nearly enough as I should, because there were a lot of times, I guess I don't even know if I should mention that I bought that course, because I definitely didn't use it as much as I probably could have, but I also felt, I'm not knocking the course, I just thought the quality wasn't quite there. And a lot of times when I would watch the videos on that course, I wouldn't like how the topic was taught, or I would just think that I could learn it faster with the book, which I think I did. Whereas with your, detailed problems and analysis of various problems, I thought the quality of that was much better than the other. So yeah, I guess I hesitate to even say I bought it, but I did. It just, I don't think it was, I just didn't use it to what it was intended, but I also just didn't really like it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we get that a lot from our students, and some students, it might work for them because everybody learns differently, and everybody has a different style of teaching, and some students might like my style of teaching and some might not. Did you find anything that didn't work for you while you were preparing for this exam? Because I feel like there's so much misinformation out there on how to pass this exam.
Well, yeah, I mean, the first time I really thought the first materials that I was using, I hate to call the organization out, but the first thing I was using, I don't think was as effective as I'd like it to be. They say, just buy that book, you're good to go. I think telling people, as people do online, to not worry about it a whole lot and don't worry about studying a whole lot is a mistake, because that advice might be okay for some people who can get away with that. I can't. I have to know exactly what it is the material that I'm getting into, and do the problems and recognize the problems that I'm getting into, and know, the reference manual specifically for the exam. I'm not just going to wing it and pass it. I mean, maybe on a lucky day that could happen, but that I know myself pretty well just from taking exams, in college, that I know when I'm prepared and not prepared. And that first time taking the exam, I didn't even feel great coming out of the exam. There were a lot of instances where I'm like, I totally guessed on a lot of problems. If I'm lucky, I'll pass. But yeah, whenever I usually know how well I'm doing when I'm not totally guessing on a certain portion of the problems.
Can you tell us a little bit about how did you spend the last 2 weeks before your test?
The last 2 weeks were very crucial. I think I took a practice exam that first weekend and got a score that I liked. I took this exam, the one that you can get with NCES.
Okay.
I got a good score, but what I did was just focus on the problems and again, I also went again with a highlighter and said, are you guessing this problem totally? Are you educatingly guessing this problem? Educatingly, just made it up. Or do you know this problem for sure? And then depending on what my score was, I would just go over the exam. I think I took the exam on Saturday, went over my results the following day, because, once you're done taking the exam, you don't want to do anything.
Right.
So yeah, then I just went over things that, did you completely guess this? Okay, how much, you probably should go into that a little bit, or read a little bit more, go into the practice problems online with your website. And then, yeah, I just sort of segregated it that way. This is what you need to spend time on. Yeah, it was just much more effective, or more specific to what do you know, what do you not know? What is a waste of time these last 2 weeks? You don't need to be doing problems that you've done and you can do. Do the ones that you are guessing on still.
Oof, that was a lot. I really actually
Yeah.
love your strategy. That was really cool because I'm actually reading a book talks about how to learn. And one of the things that it talks about in that book is that like you have to make sure that you need to figure out what do you know and what you don't know. And that's something they keep bringing up in the book because a lot of times we think we know something until we try it. And then we're like, oh, wait, I actually don't know this thing, you know?
Right.
And so before you go into the test, you got to be honest with yourself and really know, what you don't know. And what you don't know, that's what you should focus on and make sure that you know it before your test.
Right.
Yeah, so that was actually really good point you brought up. Now, as you headed to the exam, were you feeling stress on your second attempt?
A little bit.
A
Yeah.
little
I mean,
bit?
definitely I was ready to go. I mean, I pretty much had the thought of, you're passing this time. And my energy was totally different for sure. I mean, I still thought I had a good chance the first time, but this time in particular, just specifically, when I took that exam again 2 weeks ahead of time, it's just, I had the thoughts in my head, like, there's no way you should not pass this time. Proved to be correct because, when I was taking the exam the second time, all the problems I just knew quickly. My strategy had changed. I'd marked things that like the first pass, second pass. You guys recommend a certain amount of passes. I probably only did two for the first set, and then the second set maybe two-ish, maybe three. But yeah, my attitude was not like not super confident like this exam's going to be easy, but it was like I have a very good shot this time.
Now, do you have any words of wisdom that you would like to share with students who are trying to pass the FE exam right now?
I think the discouraged thing is a big one. If it's been my situation where you've been out of school for a little while, maybe don't even book the exam. Just get the material and just start going through it. You don't have to give yourself a timeline right away. Maybe even just go through maybe half of your course first and just see how you feel. Take a practice exam then, and then maybe book the exam. I think I created that time constraint right away whenever I first took it, and then had created that pressure for myself, which I don't think was particularly effective. Yeah, and just like I said before, try and just focus on the opportunity to learn something rather than focus on how much time you have to learn it, and try and not focus on just passing the exam, just because that will come once you focus on just the material and learning the material. It did for me anyway.
Awesome. Well, Paul, thank you so much for joining me today, and
Absolutely.
congratulations again. I'm really
Thank you
happy
for
for you.
your help.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. So Paul has left us with some great advice there at the end. Don't feel discouraged. So if you are trying to pass your FE exam right now, or if you failed the FE exam a couple times before and you're facing hard problems or challenging concepts, or you have to relearn some of the topics, try not to feel discouraged. It will get better. Just make sure that you put in the work, the time, the effort. Make sure that you stay consistent and show up even if you don't feel like it. And it will pay off. You will pass your FE exam as well. Now, Paul took FE other disciplines, one of many options. Let us know in the comments below which FE you're taking. Also, if you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to get more videos like this. And make sure that you check out these two videos that I have right here for you, which will help you with your FE preparation. Now, thank you guys for watching. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you on the next video. À la prochaine.